Okay, we are live now.
Okay. All right. Namaskar, everyone, and a very happy and joyous Shivratri to all of you. I welcome you all to the first in the series of Meet the Stars of much awaited The Kashmir Files. The Kashmir Files is releasing in theaters worldwide on March 11 for all of us to watch and share and support. Today, I have with me Dr. Shafalika Ban Kutwal co-hosting the event, and we'll be introducing our guest very shortly. But before that, I would like to take a moment to talk about the Right to Justice Tour, the roadshow in US that was organized between November 27th and December 30th. 15 pre-screenings in theaters and several impact events in universities, including Harvard, Columbia, University of Massachusetts, and most of all, the impact event in Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. The movie, as everybody would call it, but for us, it's not a movie, it's a real life happenings that are projected on the screen, got an overwhelming response every place it was screened at. And the star couple, Vivek Agnihotri ji and Pallavi ji, they got loads and loads of blessings and love and gratitude from each one of us, regardless of the communities the people belong to. The genocide story of Kashmiri Pandits is reaching far and wide. And it is not just us, it's everybody else talking about it now. And that is the first and most important step in this fight for justice. So thank you to each one of you for supporting it. While we are awaiting the Kashmir Files release, we thought let's bring the star cast and talk to them about their experiences throughout this movie, whether they were shooting for the movie or off screen. And in this series today, we have with us Shri Prakash Belawadi ji. He does not need an introduction, but I'm still going to say a few lines about him. An Indian theater, film, television, and media personality, teacher, activist, and journalist from Bengaluru, Karnataka. Prakash ji was born into a family of theater and cinema artists. A mechanical engineer, he devoted the bulk of his life to stage, cinema, journalism, and teaching. He has represented India as a delegate in many seminars, conferences, festivals, and has acted in many stage plays, web series, over 50 films in 5 Indian languages and English. His debut film, Stumble, which he wrote and directed, won the National Award for Best Film in the English language in 2003, and now has been included in Doordarshan's Best of Indian Cinema series. The serial Garva, which he wrote and directed again in 2001, is still considered a classic among Kannada serials. He has received several awards and felicitations. If I start naming them, it's an endless list, but I will just name a few. Meta Award for Best Supporting Actor in 2005, Helpman Award Australia for Best Actor, Male in the Play Counting and Cracking. He was conferred Bharat Bhushan in 2003 by the government of Karnataka for his contribution to culture. The Karnataka Natak Academy Award 2011-12 for his contribution to English and Kannada language theatre. He received the government of Karnataka's Rajyotsava Award in 2021. That's the latest one. So congratulations, Prakash ji. He's also been awarded Pride of Karnataka by Bangalore Roundtable 2015, Kannadiga of the Year 2015 in the field of entertainment. Prakash ji is one of the founding members of Citizens for Bengaluru, an active platform for people to engage with city government to make it accountable to citizens. And last but not the least, he is a motivational speaker at events and TEDx conferences. Prakash ji, a hearty welcome to you on our GKPD platform. It's our honor to host you here today and share some space with you.
Thank you, Dimple. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shafali.
I'm Neerja Sadhu from New Jersey. I know you've been talking to Dimple, so you might be confused at this point.
Okay, I'm
It's
so
all
sorry.
ladies. That's okay. No problem. No problem. So that's perfectly all right.
Thank you,
So
Neerja.
Prakash
Thank
ji,
you.
no problem. Prakash ji, it's a conversation, and because we've been associated with the movie since the conception, since Vivek ji took this huge task of bringing the story of our genocide to the world. So I would like to know from you, when you got the script, Vivek ji approached with the script, what was your immediate response?
I felt ashamed that, as an Indian, I didn't know as much as I should have known about this. My embarrassment was doubled because I was a journalist at the time, and I had just resigned from Sunday Magazine, where I used to work as a political correspondent, and I had resigned in early 1990. And this happened then, and I was very close to a circle of journalists then. And I'm just appalled that we knew so little about this. I have no excuse of saying that, I was stuck in the deep south, so I didn't know. I know a lot about Ukraine now than I knew about, what happened in Kashmir then. And I felt really bad about that. Also, I just want to make this remark that I know that there's some story going around in India now saying, it's a propaganda film and such. I'm saying everybody's story, deserves to be told. And I think it's our ethical responsibility to allow the story to be told. And if you have factual evidence to counter the story being told, that is one thing. Labels are cheap. What's the point of just labeling it without actually giving, a mature, responsible counter if you have one? I think it is intolerance, really speaking. And it does not lie in the mouths of these people to talk about intolerance, I think.
Sure, but I have a counter question for that. I'm sorry. As I said, it's a conversation. So, what did you know about Kashmir? When you got a script from Vivek ji that you are going to, he's offering you a role in the movie. But before that, what was the concept that you had about Kashmir?
To be honest, the story I had in my head was this, that there was certainly, some kind of, whether you call it rebels or insurgents or terrorists, as I said, labels are cheap. Everybody's doing something about it. But there was trouble from a section of the population in Kashmir, and it was along communal lines at some point in time, if not from before. So what we had assumed was that in that trouble, some pundits left the valley and came to other places. And there was also like this, what seemed like even then unfair propaganda that, they were scared and they ran away. This is what we were being told. And we thought it was largely political. It was a fight between, what the Congress party had done there, the appointment of Jagmohan. And we thought he was in some way involved in this because he had done his part not as well as it should have done. This is what we thought. We blamed it partly on him, partly on the incompetence of the government in Delhi at that time, and certainly on cross-border instigation to foment communal trouble in the valley. That's what we thought. We never realized that there was something organized on this scale. I called Vivek ji as soon as I read the script, and I'm emotional a little bit by nature, and I said, what is this? Is this true? And he said, I have talked to each one of the families, that have been of the incidents that are there in that script, and I was speechless. I really had nothing to say because I was shocked that this had been concealed for so long from the rest is us in India. I had a classmate in college this time in the 80s, and we have a WhatsApp group. After many years, when talking about Kashmir, he said his name is Sanjay Handu, and he said, I don't know, Prakash, there is something about the rest of India that just refuses to look at what happened that time, and we never get discussed. He said, and he's right. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I really, you're not the only one, so it's not your fault. You're not blaming anybody, but ultimately, it wasn't talked about. The only people that would talk about it was us. And as you know, the population is very small, and we are spread all over the world. No matter how much we talk, it's always like, we were always, first of all, we were always told that, oh, that's part of the story. Then this happened, then that happened. So we never found closure there, that somebody out there is listening to us, what happened to us. So part of the story, part of our pain came from that nobody heard us. Even when we are ready to talk about it, we're talking amongst each other. That's not ultimately what should happen, because rest of the world is dealing with some similar crisis. And we are here to tell you and kind of educate you also that this happened to us 32 years back or 30 years back. And we want to tell you that there is a certain pattern to it. Maybe we need to watch out. People need to be aware, but there's nobody to even listen to us, to even sympathy, empathy. That was something, which was not even in our thought. We were wondering that what is happening to our nation, that they're not even ready to listen to us. Whether it's the government, whether it's common people, Indian people, or anybody all across India. And slow and steady, though, I think we persisted. And the way we brought ourselves together, and GKPD is one such great platform that we've all converged on. And thanks to Vivek ji, thanks to people like you who saw into the truth, like the core of this whole issue, and you became part of the movie, and we're very thankful for that, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Neerja ji. I want to tell you this other thing also, that after there was this cricket match, in between India and the West Indies, yes, which we all saw, and that's the first time we saw how serious, the matter was in the valley. And even then, that we didn't wake up, suggests that we were lazy intellectually and in terms of empathy on the one side, and also that I think whatever the establishment was, which includes the government and what we call the system now, we have stigmatized that word now, and that one, and the government of India and the media really managed to effectively conceal, and erase this from history. And I feel a little bit angry that they're very sharp and alert in putting out the story from the other side, on what they call atrocities of the Indian armed forces there, and such stories. Everybody is ready to leap up and speak in at any dinner party, or in any conversation. I want to give you one instance. Just a couple of years ago, when we were shooting for a project in Mumbai, we were having a political conversation, the actors and some crew members, and there was this older lady. By older, I'm saying older than me. And she was sitting there, just quietly listening to it. She was also acting in this project. She never spoke a word. We went on for about 1 hour ranting to each other about Modi and anti-Modi stuff. And we spoke against Bal Thackeray also, some of us. And suddenly she said, I'm a Kashmiri Pandit, she said. And everybody just stopped, because she was playing a Punjabi lady in the story. And we said, oh, and she said, I came from Kashmir to Mumbai in 1990, and we had nothing. We just left the way we were, and we came here with nothing. And but for Bala Thackeray, my children wouldn't have got seats in colleges here. And she was in tears, and we were just completely stunned. Even that I didn't know. It seems it's a story that only the pundits know, But this is what I mean, Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Very true. Balaji Thackeray, I think each one of us is indebted to him forever. That he was the one, and he knew what would empower us. And most of the time, us Kashmiri Pandits, we are into education, whether we were in Kashmir, because that was, I think, that was somewhere our soul food, like education, that we have to constantly and continuously go towards something that will give us more empowerment, because we knew that we are always being subjected to one thing or the other. So this is one thing that we can empower ourselves with, and that's been for generations. And for Bala Saheb Thackeray ji, it's from our core of our hearts, same way as Vivek ji, that we feel indebted and we respect him and revere him forever. So I'll let Shafalika talk now. I've taken enough time.
That's what. Thank you, Prakash. It's so wonderful to have you here today. I want to discuss the movie because Nirja ji, she's among the lucky ones. She's seen the movie in US. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard snippets of it, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it. So it seems like ऐसे मुझे लगता है कि मैंने खुद ही movie देख ली है. So I know that you have got a very, very powerful role in the movie. And I know a few snippets of what you have played in the movie. Now, my question is कि as आप तो इतने बहुत बड़े actor हैं, so you have played lots of parts, और हर part में the actors, I'm a doctor myself, so we are kind of trained to remain a bit detached from the part, just enact the part, thoda distant, not get too emotionally involved in whether it's the scene or it's our patients. But knowing that this movie is actually based on real life, it's not real life, it's real life. तो जब आपको लगा, जब आपने ये पार्ट प्ले किया, तो आपको इमोशनली डिड यू फील very emotional? Did you find it hard to think that कि ये actually हुआ है, जो इस मूवी में दिखा रहे हैं, ये कुछ अभागे दुर्भाग्य वश ये बातें हुई है हिस्ट्री में? So I just wanted to know how you dealt with it emotionally and how you felt about it at that time.
हाँ शेफाली जी, अब तक मैंने मूवी नहीं देखा अभी. I'm going to watch it only on its release. But I must tell you that I wept when I read the script, and I went with a series of suggestions that I made to Vivek ji on how I think it should be treated and handled and such, Although it's not for me to do that. I got so involved that I did it. And I will allow Vivek ji whenever he wants to talk about it to do it, but I got really involved with it, and I did my own research. And like I was saying, for us, I come from a theater family. See, Abhinava Gupta for us, we know the Natya Shastra because of Abhinava Gupta, because it was a what we call a Maukikat. It was in the oral tradition. We have the manuscripts. And it is because of his profound scholarship that Abhinava Gupta actually say what was in the Natya Shastra. He could tell us what the counter arguments were, the different viewpoints were there about theater. We knew that he had connected the Shiv Sukta to the Natya Shastra. All that we knew in the South, but we didn't care about Kashmir like we should have. So when they did a threat ceremony for me when I was in. See, we are what you call a secular family in the sense that we don't.
Yes.
We don't. I lost my mother in just 2 weeks ago, and my mother had willed that her body should be donated to a hospital for research. She didn't want any rituals. We are a family like that. But even then, we actually revered these people and these names. And then, you don't even find out about what this means. Shankara went to that place. When I did the thread ceremony, when I had to introduce myself, what we call a pravara, I had to say, Kashyapasa Gotra, Ashvala, Sutra, Riksha, Kadi. I had introduced myself like that. I'm saying I'm from Kashyap. I'm saying this is a place named after Kashyap Muni, but I don't know anything about it. I feel that is why, this agony of it was one is about the real stories of people who suffered. And the other is this entire lack of empathy, at the time when we should have wept, stood up and done something about it, that we didn't do anything about it. I was younger then. I could have done a lot. I was quite an influential journalist at that time. I was a political reporter. I could have gone to Kashmir. I could have done a story, but I didn't do that. And I feel terrible about that. That is the thing, and all that came, all that made me really a lot more emotional. And I think the story needs to be told. And all the people who think they don't like it should be able to come to a debate, instead of just standing on the sidelines and, mouthing, obscenities, at the filmmaker. They should be able to come to a debate. Actually, I'll be quite happy to go to any debate and talk to them, so this
Yeah.
thing about, sorry, go on.
No, sorry. No, you are very right. I think one of the reasons was in 1990, there was a total media blackout. I was there and there were hardly any media people. I don't know. I still can't fathom what the reason for that was. And you're from South India, but even in places like Delhi and Jammu, which are really very close to Kashmir, there was no media presence. There was nobody who was interested in our stories, and I don't really know
I think
why.
in hindsight, two important things happened. In 91, Rajiv's assassination happened, which kind of overwhelmed the country, and it took over. There was no other parallel narrative that could survive that. And the second thing that happened was the Babri Masjid, the build-up. So these two became completely powerful narratives. Following on, VP Singh's, social engineering, as he called it, of the Mandal politics. So these three things, and then Narasimha Raw's own government, which was dictated by pragmatism, I think led to this complete erasure of memory. There was a very funny connect that I got to it with it. There was an attempt by a media company in Bangalore to collaborate with a British company to do Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children. A large part of it occurs in Kashmir, in the beginning part. So they wanted to do that as a web, not as a web. Those days there was no web. It was a 5-part series or 6-part series for B4 or something. Okay, and that time I was involved with that project in some way, and I read a lot about that even then. Even then, there was a blackout of this thing. When all the reading material I had, I could lay my hands on. It was a pre-internet era still. We just didn't get anything about this. Not even a brief mention. Never came anywhere. So there was. I can't believe that it was accidental. So there must have been some
by
thinking
design.
mind.
Definitely by design. So just one more thing before I hand it over to Nirja Didi. So if I tell you about myself, because obviously in 1990 I was quite young, and then we struggled and didn't contribute. I think didn't contribute much because I was just trying to survive. But now there's the sense of accomplishment, as people, eminent people like you, they're coming out talking about stories. Vivek Agnihotri, obviously he's done a great job. Do you feel happy? I mean, I just want to just know your view. Do you think, okay, der aaye durust aaye, okay, now, now we can contribute, now things are going to go in a particular direction?
Yes, I also feel that, that this is a change of, this is a time of great change in India, I know it seems unpleasant to many people, and I know that great change always brings a lot of trouble, and it opens up old wounds, and people are free to take sides. This is a democracy, and everybody has a right to their opinion. Certainly, more than a right, they're welcome to a different political opinion. But I think we must remember the great Indian culture is to allow debate rather than this what they call a cancel culture now, or taking up guns, or actually lynching people in public. This is not the Indian way. I mean, every culture has got, lumpen, rowdy elements, across. Nobody can boast, to be free of it. But I'm saying, but you must judge cultures by their best, by their aspirational thing. And the great aspirational idea of India is that we're able to argue about our different faiths and different beliefs and different approaches to life. And certainly, if you are mature, we must accept that history is also an agreement. There are versions and versions. Some stories are told, some stories are not so told. And we settle on history that we will teach to our children in schools and colleges. We are doing a history that is by contract. It is not necessarily the truth, or certainly it is not the whole truth. So I'm saying, if you're honest, and if you're mature, and if you're truly Indian in that sense, if you're a Bharatiya, then you have to allow debate. I mean, if you call yourself liberal, and if you want to label the other side, what you recognize as the other side is intolerant, it becomes a travesty. If you do the exact opposite of what you claim you to be, then it becomes a travesty. You should allow debate, and I'm very proud to be a part of this. I've worked with Vivek ji before, with its team before in another film, the Kashmir Files. And I can say that Vivek Agnihotri himself, as an artist and as a human being, has rapidly changed because, I think he has now acquired this really important ability to be able to question himself too. He has the courage to ask himself the question if he's right, and he has the courage to go out there and talk. And he can be countered. You can find him everywhere, and you can certainly argue with him and debate with him. I don't see that the other side is available like that. I think they're like working like snipers, sitting on top of dark towers and shooting from there. Come out in the open, sit along, on the same days and argue if you wish. But just to stop this labeling, it's ridiculous. Beyond a point, it becomes farcical. If you don't have anything to say but just labels, what outboutery and then propaganda, and I know pata nahi kya kya, they keep on finding new ways of labeling. I mean, you should be able to say something, no? Yeah.
और अभी तो देखा भी नहीं है. They have not even watched the movie,
Yeah.
labeling something.
Yeah.
The trailer, which is already, I think, garnered 9 million views so far, and even our, a country across the border, people from there are talking about it and shedding tears, like, literally calling out each and every one that why this was not communicated to the rest of the world. So to your point, Prakash, तो आपको ये भी बता दूं कि जो भी threats वगैरह तो सब आ जाती थी वहां पे, तो सभी जो ग्रुप्स थे, टेररिस्ट ग्रुप्स थे, उनके फरमान आ जाते थे, लेकिन ये नहीं आता था कि कुछ.
Sorry, I missed that. Your audio is getting eaten up.
Yes, I think with some issues with audio. So Prakash, I think what Nirja ji was saying, that like you said, like we discussed earlier, these things were not picked up. These things were not picked up then, And it is with great accomplishment. We are so happy as a community. We are so happy that people like yourself, although you knew some bits, but now it's now suddenly exponentially it's just come on the surface now, and thanks to the movie. So now in the movie there is a young Kashmiri girl, Basha Subli. She's part of her community. I think she found it pretty hard. I was thinking, I was in her place. I had to act in a movie which was talking about my life and the life of my relatives and my friends. How hard would I found that? And obviously Anupam Kheji, he's part of our community. People I think find it really hard to enact things from their own life. So, but for you, was there any particular challenge you faced during the movie? And anything?
I had a personal problem. I want to tell you this, that see, I am South Indian, and I don't try to speak English like an American or a Londoner, or I don't speak BBC's English, and I don't try to speak Hindi like I'm from Lucknow or even from Mumbai. I try to speak Hindi like I'm a South Indian, and my Hindi is not very good. And I was very embarrassed that I was acting in a film where I felt it was important that that somebody speaks Hindi with a Kashmiri accent if possible. But I'm deeply grateful to Vivek ji for having me on the show. In spite of that, I remember on the last, my role is not very big there, but they keep saying that my role was important for them. And on the last day of shoot, Vivek ji gathered around the crew and other remaining cast members, and he said, actually, I was quite moved. He said that it was important for him to have me there as a spiritual presence. He said, because I was more than doing acting there, that I was actually so involved with it that I was also kind of soundboard, and I was spiritually involved with the film, he said. And I'm very moved by that. So for me, to be a part of this film was in some way to expiate, prayashchit. It was for not caring, when I should have. Even now I feel emotional to say this, because 75,000 families fled Kashmir. It's just a mind-boggling number for such a small community. It may not be, given India and its sizes, of people,
Yes,
of sections of people, it may not seem humongous to say, some community in UP, but for Pandits who were already a minority in the valley, in Kashmir, for 75,000 of them to flee Kashmir, to live like refugees in their own country, and for the countrymen not to care, that I think just made it so desolate for them and their children. When when you were told the story from other Kashmiris, it must have been terrible to imagine that you've been abandoned by what you could possibly only trust. There was nothing else you could trust.
yes.
The government and your people, and if they don't even look at what happened to you, then what to say, right? So I think for him it is a great act of courage to do this. There is no doubt that what Vivek is doing is a great act of courage, and there must be some way to put together. This is the start. This is the start of a debate. One single movie is not going to cut it. We need to talk about this. I would say that those people who feel that they have something to say about this, I think you should start the discourse now, participate in the conversation, and say what you want to say. Don't make ad hominem attacks on a person. Tell what stories you have to tell, rather than, if you have done a kind deed, if there's a Schindler's List character among you, why don't you validate their stories and tell. Then we'll know the truth. Don't stop just like pointing fingers at one guy and, making fools of yourselves. That's what I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely, Prakashji. So I just wanted to ask you one thing, because I heard, like I've told you, I've seen trailers and a few things here and there, and I heard that you are playing a doctor from Houston in the movie. So I don't want you to give the plot out, but for us there is a connection there, which we will let the audience when they see the movie 11th March, and I hope they'll be able to make the connection. But just to let you know, for us as a community, there is a connection there. So I'll then pass it on to Nirja ji to talk about the movie. Yes.
So sorry, I got disconnected. I don't know what happened, but what I was trying to say is that it's nobody's fault, yet it is everybody's fault. So we're not trying to blame anybody, but 32 years of being an activist in my own small, little tiny role, somehow I feel a little closure. I watched the movie. That's why I didn't want to even touch that subject, because if I start talking about it, I don't want to reveal anything. Since Shaf mentioned about your role, I could not watch that part in its entirety, to be very honest. Majority of the time I was crying, I was sobbing. I mean, so were everybody else, including our non-Kashmiri friends and people who were, the whole theater was full. We had 2 theaters. And there are so many parts that I missed out on, just because there was a personal connect to each and every part. There was a personal connect to even the names in the of the characters that you guys are playing. So for me and my friends or my family, it was total catharsis. It was like, we are watching ourselves there. It's, if Basha is there, it's me. If Anupamji is there, it's my father. I mean, those thoughts were constantly nagging me, and a lot of parts that I could not watch. Of course, we are going back and watching it here together with our friends, family, extended family, and of course, letting everybody else know that this is not something that you would like to watch as an entertainment. This is something that we've been constantly asked, because our friends are always very curious. They've been asking us, so what happened? So when you relate your personal story, you are missing out on certain parts, because you cannot relate 32 years or even before that. You cannot relate that in an hour of a conversation. So many parts get left out. We may have connected again and again and again, but there are so many parts that I feel that, because as you said, you're emotional, you're an artist, you're a theater person, you're an emotional person, and I'm worst in terms of emotions. So whenever I talk about it, I am crying, I'm sobbing. So a lot of things that probably were important for me to mention or to say to my friends, and who've been very empathetic, very, very, very supportive, I might have left out those things. And trust me, and I've been telling this to everybody, that the Kashmir Files covers each and every aspect of our life, and even till now, what is happening with our younger generation, why they are not able to connect with what is going on, what happened to us. So kudos to Vivek ji for even thinking about all those aspects. We may have said it, but kind of picking on those things and putting them in the movie, and then elaborating on it and saying it as it is, not whitewashing it or not putting any dialogues in there, so as to say, just saying it as bare and as stark as it is. So of course, he has our blessings, our love, support, respect, everything. My question to you is regarding, because you are a writer, you are a director. So how did you find the screenplay, like in terms of the entirety? Like when you read your part, but then you saw other actors, other artists playing their part. How did you find Vivek ji's direction, screenplay, everything, in totality, since you are a writer, you are a director?
See,
What
I
was
will
the
let me start from outside the box. I want to tell you a story. There is a place in Bangalore called the Foundation for the Revitalization of Local Health Traditions.
Oh.
And it is something started by San Petroda. And one of the things they do is they don't just look at Ayurveda, they look at clairvoyance even, they just put it to the same rigorous critical inquiry as they would do in allopathy, and then accordingly decide that this is a good practice or not. That's what they do. It's very interesting. And they've done, for instance, in 22 languages, they've done a documentation of home medicine, and they've compared it with British pharmacopoeia and saying, what is there in allopathy as ingredient, and the various names, folk and classical language names in India, Desi names. It's a fantastic project. Okay. The important thing in that approach is that so far you could say Ayurveda was mumbo jumbo, because somebody says, chants a mantra and says it works and it doesn't work. And you can say it's only by empirical, by trial and error it happens. But when you put ingredients and say, the same ingredients exist in well-researched, well-documented pharmacopoeia from the West, from the Occidental traditions, then it becomes a difficult challenge, right? I say this because one of the critical different things that Vivek Agnihotri did with Kashmir Files was that he spent a lot of time talking to you people. I feel like crying when I'm saying this, because I was overwhelmed when I read script. I'm the kind of person who wept all day watching the Twin Towers, being attacked in the US. Because, there are people who went to work, just like my wife goes to work, and that's what I felt. And that's why I feel very bad about the debate now in India, saying, forget the debate. You have time for it. Don't you have tears to shed? I don't understand this, What he did was that he spoke to you people. He heard those stories and he put them into the script. So when you do that, I think it's going to be very hard in front of a public for you to be just, mouthing labels at him or at the film. And, I promise you that, I hate to go to TV debates now because, they are so raucous and noisy and all that. But I promise you, in print or on television or online, I challenge anybody to come and just do labels, okay? And I'll come with the condition that in the opening statement, if they give them 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. For a counter, if you give them 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. I challenge any scholar also to come and sit, and we will see whether it's propaganda or it's a story that deserves to be told. This is all it is at the moment. And I want to tell you, if you don't mind, this is just the beginning. You will cry a lot more because they will say all kinds of things. And, they'll deny lots of things. Can you imagine they don't have numbers yet on how many people fled Kashmir? Is that even believable? What the hell is that, So I'm saying they're going to tell a lot of lies, say there's no proof. So it's going to be hard for you.
They've been doing that all through. It's not the first. We've been hearing those.
Reminded of what you said just now, is that we have got records of people who have actually been killed, including places where they were killed and how they were killed and the date, and the numbers are more than 1,000. So it's like 1,200, 1,300 some who were actually killed within a few months. 1,600. So 1,600. So we've got that list. But then the government records show that 200 people were killed.
Yeah, so I think 290 or something this year.
290 or so, 200 plus. So I spent many years thinking, where does this 290 figure come from? It's so much less than how many were actually killed. And then only recently, I think a couple of years back, somebody told me that there is a Tokyo Convention of some human rights, And they say if more than 200 people are killed, if more than 300 people are killed, then it's recognized as genocide. But if it's less than 300, then it's not a genocide. So that's where the fudging of the figures has come from. So I thought I'll mention that. So that is interesting.
You know,
And
in
that-
India, I was a crime reporter. I can tell you this, okay? In India, national annual crime numbers are generated from the reports that the states give. And it depends on the states, the government, the state government of the time, whatever its political persuasion is, they can just send you any numbers. And the criterion can be crazy. I'll give you one such. I don't know whether they've corrected it now. See, there is in one state, if, for instance, if somebody calls and says, I need help, it's not registered as a FIR or a complaint report. You have to go to the station and in person. You have to. If somebody is attacked at home, how will they go to the station and in person complain, right? So they don't record it. In some other states, they record it. So you can get numbers that are completely crazy. In a very peaceful state, you can get records that of high crime rates. And in a state that is horrendous, where you can't step out, you can get very rosy numbers. So basically, all these statistics you must derive from the victims. I mean, if that is not justice, I mean, that's the beginning, you know, at least. If you don't do that, if you take it from police records, it depends on who's in control at the time, right? So over those years, since then, in the last 30 years, what did we get there? So I think we have to take it with a pinch of salt. And maybe it deserves an investigation. Again, today we can do these numbers with big data very easily. We can put out an international poll seeking numbers and records from Kashmiri Pandits everywhere in the world to come with their stories. We can make a compendium that runs to 6,000 or 8,000 pages or even more. Okay, so I'm saying, you know, if anybody wants a debate, let's start it. But if you want to do labels, don't come to the room, you know, stand outside and talk. It's fine.
Well, we need people like you to counter it. Of course, you're doing it through your movie and how you spoke right now. I guess that gives us personally, we've never heard you speak, to be very honest. I'm sorry, I haven't heard any of your TEDx, but I'm going to go back and I feel ashamed of myself that I don't know that you've been speaking there. So I'll go back.
I'm so big. So but I will do this actually. And I'm quite happy to actually put together a project if anybody is interested. Bangalore is a great place for software and analytics, and I'm willing to put together a project, raise funds for it, and I'm willing to do what I said we will do. We will do a website where people can write their stories, and we will set up a mechanism to authenticate these stories, and we'll publish, maybe a 16-volume, series on Kashmiri Pandits. Actually, I'll see. This is what I'm saying. If they challenge, we should take it head on, and we should do it like this. If you call me a cat and I'll call you a monkey, is a very stupid way of arguing. You know, we will change this. We will put together this project. You know, and Nirjaji, I'm depending on you people. If you're interested, you let me know. I will raise the money for it, and I'll do it.
Of course, we are interested. That's what we are here for.
Thank you, Prakash. When people like Nirjaji or me, we talk about these things. Okay. At the most, 10 people will listen to us, or maybe 20. So when people like you being an eminent actor, people like Vivek Agnihotri, who's a director. So exponentially the number just rises, and then suddenly you've got thousands of people or millions of people in this case listening to you. That's why we are so enthusiastic about the movie, because we have spent all of our life talking about our issue, because it is our life. And first 10 years nobody listened. Then some people listen, but maybe few of your close acquaintances. I live in London, and I keep telling this story to people. There's only 1 or 2 people in a day I can get to. But when people like you talk about it, I think that this has really enthused us. And movies are such an important medium. Even my children, I've got teenagers, everybody is waiting to watch the movie now. If I ask them to read a book on the Kashmir issue, they'll say, oh no, that's boring, we don't want to read about it. Now this movie, because it's so, movie is part of, the entertainment industry, and it's got that as well. And now such an important theme is added to the movie. So yeah, so that's why we are so enthusiastic. And thank you, Prakashi, for your interest.
Thank you.
That is so welcome.
Thank you so much. And I guess
Thank you.
we had a I think when you have conversations, and like you said, it could be conversations with like-minded people or conversations across the table when people don't agree with you. And such conversations should happen. And we're always ready to interact with people who have a disagreement or who would like to know more about it. But I certainly would like to tell people that, watch it first. You have just seen the trailer. Trailer is actually as powerful as the movie is, but once you get to watch the movie, I can tell you they won't know where to go, to be very honest. That's how I feel about the movie, because I watched it. I did miss a lot of parts, which I need to go back and watch it again and reflect on those. And of course, I told you that I couldn't watch some parts of what, your, that particular scene. It was very, very, very emotional moment for me. And then there was one more character that intrigued me throughout the movie. And I was wondering, because I was connecting that character with my real life, which is my kids. And I'm sure you must have gotten the hint from it. And when it came alive on the screen towards the end, and I sent him the message also. I did tell him that this is how I felt about it, though I didn't discuss the character. But I realized that, okay, that's why I was missing something there, that why is this character so like, क्या है चलता है ना हाँ यही है ये है ऐसे हो. And then suddenly when that character came alive, literally it just blew my mind off कि ये क्या हो गया. And that's what I related with. And my son was with me, who is 22 years old.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, he was with us, and he came outside and he saw us obviously crying, and he hugged us and everything. And then I took a small clip of him saying what he felt about it, and others also. I had a friend who has his daughter was with him. We took her bite also, and she started crying because she knew what had happened. But when you see it on the screen, when you see it a visual of something like this, it has a whole different meaning. And it did to all of us in that theater, 140 people sitting there. There was a girl sitting behind me who was constantly asking her dad throughout the movie, what happened here? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? And I did interview her also, but I couldn't put it out because she was not of the age that is allowed in theaters here. Such was the impact of the movie. And that, you must have seen all those after shots and after the screening videos and how people reacted, how people were sobbing, crying. It was not just us. It was every other Indian crying with us, a Jew crying with us, an African-American crying with us, an American crying with us. And that was something which probably, to me, it just gave me some little hope that we are going to, and probably during my lifetime, we may be able to see something better for us. So thank you for being part of such a great initiative. And of course, our wishes and our respect for all of you. And if you want to say something to our viewers, I don't know who is watching, but I'm sure they must have listened to you with a lot of, intent, because you said something very, very meaningful stuff, which we have been actually waiting to hear from people. So please do say a few words before we.
See, I would say that I think everybody needs reconciliation with what happened to them. Everybody needs a reconnect, to what they think they belong to, because they're in exile and they're alienated from it. Need a reconnect. But I say, as an Indian who was secure, who's lived in comfort, never felt any real threat. For us, it's really important to reclaim our history, certainly from a place like Kashmir, you know, as our own again. And I think we should hope that this film will be a catalyst for that moment to come to India, where we can talk about ourselves again without too much guilt and without too much smugness, and see that we have a job to do here, that, you know, our nation is yet to be built. That's what I think. And I think our nation is incomplete without Kashmir.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. That's a very powerful message. It is incomplete without Kashmir. Sure. Shaf, you would like to conclude, or you want me to?
No, I think we had a really interesting and enlightening conversation. Prakash, thank you for taking out your time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. And we will have more conversations. We are having a series this week. We'll be meeting every day with different with the cast and crew of Kashmir Files. You were the first one today, so thank you. And then
Yes, thank you.
Nirja Didi and
Thank you so much, Prakashji. I mean, it's really been such an honor to hear you. And I again apologize. I did not know that you speak on TEDx and on spirituality and all. And I'll go back and check it again. That's my promise to you. And thank you for connecting with us and giving us your time, and then making suggestions as well, how we can carry this forward and with more intensity. So we'll connect with you again, and thank you so much on behalf of GKPD as well. All of us, we thank you a lot. Thank you so much.